All right, and a very pleasant good morning to each and every one of you on this Saturday, November the 3rd. As you can tell right off the bat, this is not Bruce Posner. This is someone with a great deal of radio experience. I'm Bruce's good buddy, longtime radio guy in the Baltimore area, Stan the Fan Charles, and I'm joined on Kelly and Associates Insurance Group TerpTalk. I'm joined by Wayne Viener, my co-host. And Wayne, I know you're going to have to carry the day here, both informationally and with the Posner system.
Oh, Posner system is true and tested, much like the Maryland quarterback situation.
That's apropos. Now, I'm only the second guy to come in this season to host Bruce's show, the Terp Talk show over here in the D.C. market. But you've been here all the weeks during the college football season and the University of Maryland season in particular. Wayne, this has absolutely been crazy. Sean Petty's the guy today. Is there, first of all, and we'll go over the history real quickly, but is there a next man up if need be?
Well, Sean Petty's a linebacker playing quarterback today. He'll wear number 31. The backup quarterback is a tight end, number 87, and they're sticking to those numbers. So if Petty comes out, you're going to see number 87 playing quarterback. It'll look like a throwback to 1930. And that's Brian McMahon as that tight end, who's also a freshman.
All right. Can you go over, I know at the beginning of the season, right before the season started, the quarterback was supposed to be C.J. Brown with Danny O'Brien leaving for Wisconsin. But since then, C.J., he blew his knee out?
Right. He was playing in it was
in
just
one
a
of the
practice.
scrimmages, one of the practices.
Just a practice.
But he blew that out back in, I think, July or something, August. But since then, we've had Perry Hills playing up to the NC State game. Then Devin Burns came in and played the last quarter of the NC State game before blowing his knee out. Then in UMass, we had Caleb Rowe, who played, you told me, the last 26 seconds of the game against NC State, and then and then against BC. Okay, he played just about the whole game. And now we're down to Sean Petty.
That's
the quick history of this thing.
Quick history. Maryland Sports Information sent an email to all the big schools that play football and said, have you ever had anything like this? And the answer's been no. This is the most unprecedented event in quarterbacking history to lose. And if you go back for the last 11 games, Danny O'Brien broke his arm and was out for the season. So in 11 games, we've used up O'Brien, Brown, Hills, Burns, Caleb Rowe, and now we're on to the
we're on to our sixth quarterback in the last 11 games.
Right.
I never heard anything like this. Now, that's the bad news, and we don't know what the news is going to be with Sean Petty, how he's going to play. You likened his coming in to take over for Caleb Rowe, who took over for Devin Burns, who took over for Perry Hills, who took over for C.J. Brown. You said to me the other day on the phone when we introduced ourselves to one another, you said this is a lot more like Tom Matte coming in for Johnny Unitas or Earl Morrill or Gary Quazzo than it would be Lou Gehrig taking over for Wally Pipp.
Right, and that analogy is that Matte came in to play, I believe that was a playoff game or last game of the season for the Colts against Green Bay, and that was it. He had a sort of a one-game audition at quarterback. So I see Petty more as a solution that might get us through this season. I don't really think he's going to be the quarterback for the next 3 years. We have a lot of guys on the bench who are coming off of injury for next year, and then we have a great Baltimore product, which is Shane Cockrell, who's one of the top 11 quarterbacks in America coming in as a freshman next year.
All right, if you're just tuning in, Stan the Fan sitting in for Bruce Posner this morning on the Kelly and Associates Insurance Group Terp Talk program, and we want to give out the phone number. It's toll free, 866-950-5225. That's 866-950-5225. Now, you said to me the other day when we first got introduced to one another, you said, I got to meet my video intern here in the morning, and it turns out that your video intern is quite a young man. You want to tell our listeners about who our video intern is and where they can see this show on video?
Sure. Our video intern is a student in Frost Middle School in Montgomery County. It's Wayne Viener, who's our 11-year-old, he's an 11-year-old man, not a boy.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
And for anybody who's been watching the videos on www.terptalk.com, you've seen a couple pictures of Mason, and we certainly appreciate him getting up at 5:55 in the morning and coming over here every Saturday to take care of the video duties.
Did he have any choice in the matter?
He always has a choice.
Okay, so this is not slave labor.
It is not.
All right. Hey, Wayne, today the Terps take the field at 12 noon at Georgia, 12:30 at Georgia. No, it's at College Park, at Byrd Stadium. God, Bruce would have known that. I know that. Now, tell us a little bit about this game. Clearly, the quarterback situation is front and center, but tell us a little bit about who we're taking on in Paul Johnson's Georgia Tech edition of 2012.
Well, I'm sure anybody listening to Terp Talk this morning knows a little bit about football in this area. Paul Johnson was the head coach at Navy. He takes his option offense and goes to Georgia Tech about 5 years ago. The first couple of years, Georgia Tech was lights out with that option. But let's get to this year. They're 3-5. There's been rumblings down in Atlanta that they're just not getting it done. They had longtime Virginia coach and also was a Jets coach. Al Groh was a defensive coordinator at Georgia Tech. They fire him 4 games into the season.
4 games into this season.
Georgia Tech fires Al Groh. They're trying to get the ship righted there. They still do the option, but last week they were with BYU and they only picked up 117 yards on the ground. So 3-5 Georgia Tech coming to play 4-4 Maryland. It's interesting, we have a better record than Tech. They went 8-5 last year and went to a bowl game. Georgia Tech looked poised with a huge defensive line. They have a 340-pound nose tackle, 300-pound defensive end out of their 3-4 defense, but they just haven't been able to shut the opposition down. They had big losses. They lost to BYU last week. They lost to Middle Tennessee State. They got crushed by Miami. It just hasn't been a happy time in Atlanta for this year.
Boy, that's a little surprising. I don't follow college football all that closely. I do follow the Terps fairly closely, but I was guessing that Paul Johnson's club was every bit as good as they had been the last couple of years, but that's not the case. Now tell us a little bit about, once you take out of the equation the quarterback situation, I know Maryland this year has been a young team with such a lot of turnover last year with the players leaving and Randy getting his own players in this year, but this has actually been, all things considered, a pretty good season for Randy Etzel's second season. I know it's not what he would want, wins and losses, but given the calamity at quarterback, not horrible.
Not horrible is pretty good. We've improved the win total 100%. We won 2 games last year.
And we're up to 4 this year.
4.
Yeah.
The defense really doesn't have that many new players. You're talking about a Maryland defense under the tutelage of Brian Stewart, new defensive coordinator for this season, that has gone back to the attacking ways, putting pressure on the offense. The Maryland defense ranks 7th nationally. So they were 7, they went up to 11, and after playing BC, we're the number 7 defense in America. So you're going to give a running quarterback and Sean Petty a chance to win the game because we can shut down the run. The only hole in this defense has been when they needed to make a stop. You can look at the NC State game, had a lead, or couldn't hold the lead, almost win the game. BC, we get the lead late in the game, BC gets off 1 drive and scores a touchdown and we lose. So you're talking making 2 plays out of the entire season, we would be 6-2 right now and be undefeated in the ACC.
You know, being somebody that's over in Baltimore myself, and I follow the Ravens quite closely, one of the problems the Ravens defense has had is that the inconsistent offensive play of the Ravens has left the defense on the field a lot longer. Has that been the case? And we're in Baltimore, we're lamenting that. Has this defense been on the field a lot more minutes than usual?
Early in the season, that was the case for the Terps defense. The Maryland offense with some untimely turnovers gave a lot of short field to the opposition, but the defense held on. You saw them not giving up touchdowns. They gave up field goals. They've earned that number 7. It's not because they've been out there an inordinate amount of time. Later in the year, as Wes Brown's matured, as Hills got the offense going and got Diggs involved more from the Virginia game on, the offense has pretty much held up their end of the deal. And this is just going to be a team with a lot of freshmen, as you mentioned, on offense. You're seeing guys that are never coming off of high school, they go to a 2-week training camp, and now they're playing in the NCAA level. Talking about 18-year-old kids who are playing against fifth-year seniors who are 21, 22 years old.
Well, plus they're not having the benefit of getting into the flow of playing under an established leader that knows how to run, knows how to calmly run an offense. They're constantly being thrust into situations where the quarterback doesn't have a lot of experience.
Those are very good points, and I think the leadership quality of Hills is the reason he was the starter.
Yeah.
He's a guy who was a wrestler in high school. He got the kids in and out of the huddle. They were on time. I haven't seen any delay penalties. They were doing a good job. I'm going to have to credit that to Mike Loxley, who was the first-year offensive coordinator, although he's at Maryland several years ago as a running backs coach. And then he went to Florida and was the head recruiter there, and they won the national championship.
And then he went to New Mexico.
He went to Illinois next, and they go to the Rose Bowl. And he was able to take athletic players and put a system around them that got the most out of their talent. It's not the most innovative offense you'll ever see, but it's able to be transferred. You can learn the offense. He's passed it on now. This will be his 5th starting quarterback this season, and I actually now expect it's going to work well.
If you were guessing right now, and again, you're listening to Terp Talk, Kelly & Associates Terp Talk on 1580 AM biz.gov radio, tell us a little bit about your estimation, because you're the expert here today, Wayne. If 2013 were starting tomorrow, if it was spring practice, what will the pecking order be at quarterback? Your best guess.
My best guess is I left one quarterback out of the mix, and that's Ricardo Young, who is redshirting this year. He was a big recruit for Virginia Tech. It didn't work out there for him. So he's going to be in the mix, and if all things were equal, he might have been the starting quarterback this year. So I'm thinking that Ricardo Young and C.J. Brown are probably going to go 1-2. And then we'll see between Rowe and Hills if we can get a red shirt out of either one of those guys. And maybe there's still hope for Burns to go back to wide receiver. And then I expect Pay to be back at linebacker. And then you start lining up the talent that's going to come in, which is Shane Cockrell, who'll probably red shirt. But we're looking at a real log jam at quarterback for 13 and then probably even for 14.
You know, one of the things I noted last year, and I'm the publisher of a sports newspaper here in Baltimore. I'll give it a little shameless plug. That's Press Box. And we, of course, follow the University of Maryland pretty closely down there. A lot of criticism last year by the Maryland faithful and the media about Randy Edsall because there was such a big turnover of players that weren't happy playing for him. This year, despite all the setbacks, doubled 100% increase in victories from 2 to 4 with a few games to go. And I don't hear one bit of grumbling from his sidelines or from the attendant media about Randy Edsall. This has been a big turnaround year for Randy Edsall, hasn't it?
I think we're finally getting what we expected to get. Last year, when you look in the rearview mirror of history, is going to look like an aberration. He came in, he put in a new structure, and one of the things about successful businesses, organizations, whatever you have, is that you have a structure from the top that everybody understands, and you're going to need buy-in to that structure. When he came in and changed the rules, and maybe it was a little abrupt last year, he had a lot of people go, we're just not going to do it this way. So I'm sure everybody who's out there...
A lot of blowback last year against Randy.
A lot of blowback. So anybody who's ever been in an organization where management change and wholesale change has probably seen the same thing. But it's different, I guess, when it happens to a person in a small organization or company than when it happens on this big media network in Baltimore and Washington. And everybody's always looking for a story. And
Yeah.
that was the burning building of the area. Everybody's looking at that going, oh my God, look what happened.
What surprised me last year, though, Wayne, and clue me in where I might be incorrect on this, it's not that surprising that fans would have been like kind of, because a lot of the fans liked Ralph Friedgen quite a bit. I mean, he was a very popular among the Maryland alumni. But a lot of fans would just sort of throw their hands and go, this is terrible. But I don't think a lot of them would have been, if not prompted by certain media members over in the D.C. market, I don't think the media, I mean, the fans would have been saying, they made a major mistake here. They should have had, what was the guy they were
Franklin. Coach Franklin, who went down to Vanderbilt.
Yeah. Well, Coach Franklin and the other guy they were talking to,
Mike Leach
Leach.
of Washington State.
Yeah.
Has not done well this year.
Yeah. But I thought it was the media that more kind of acted almost like fans last year in calling for Randy Edsall's head. Not including the whole media, but a couple key people, big name people in the D.C. market were saying that Kevin Anderson made a mistake. I never believed that, and I know you did.
I think at 2-10, when it almost looked like an open revolt, I think everybody might have had a second thought. But guys like Mike Wise and John Feinstein and some others really did jump on this as a big news story. I'm happy that people care that much about Maryland. I hope they care that much about Maryland when we win, and I think next year we're going to be bowl eligible. We could even get lucky today. You didn't ask me what I think is going to happen today. But I have faith in this system. I have faith in the structure that Randy set up. And I think even with your 6th quarterback in 11 games, he can still get this done today.
All right. Good analysis there by Wayne Viener. And you're listening to Terp Talk. And we want to thank our sponsor, Viener Consulting of Rockville. If you want to join in, call in toll free on 866-950-5225. That's 866-950-5225. This is Stan the Fan, sitting in for Bruce Posner, and you're listening to Kelly & Associates Insurance Group Terp Talk. When we get back, Richard Jakelitz of the Jakelitz Law Group will join us with a possible update on Des Wells and a Maryland appeal on his year's eligibility this year. We'll be right back.